Thanks for joining me on the Peace and Parenting podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the Peace and Parenting podcast. I'm Michelle. I'm so glad you're here. I want to leave a little review of someone inside of our community. And she says, the energy in our house is different. I feel like I'm more of the fun mom who isn't as stressed and tired as I was. A lot of this just a change in my perspective and the way of thinking about my kids and the interactions I'm having. I'm more hopeful now, says Jenny. Thank you, Jenny. I'm so glad. And I'm so glad that you found some peace in your house and some connection. And that's what we hope to do inside of our communities and our group coaching program. So thank you. And I'm so glad you're part of the Connected Parent Mastermind. All right. I want to talk about why my kids won't do as I ask. That's my number one. That's the number one complaint of parents. That's the number one issue that people are having. The biggest struggle is everything's a fight. I cannot get my children to do X or Y or Z because everyone says no, 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 no. Or they ignore me, or they don't listen. I hear a lot of things like, my kids are not good listeners. They're not listening to me. I can't get them to do anything. They're not cooperating. All of these things kind of line up under the same idea of children not wanting to cooperate, not wanting to comply, not wanting to do the things that we ask them to do. And it can be very hard in parenting to have a lot of things that we think we need to do and a lot of things we think we need to make our kids do or get our kids to do, and have kids who just will not say yes. They're in conventional parenting world, they would say they're defiant. They are not cooperative. They're on purpose not doing it. And maybe they are. Maybe that is exactly what's happening. Maybe they are on purpose saying, no, I don't want to do it. No, screw you. No, this is not something I feel like I should or I desire to do. And so I'm not doing it. And then we get this idea we have entitled kids who are disrespectful, who do not, comply with our wishes. Then we get this whole negative connotation about our kids. So let's unravel this a bit. Let's think about it in let's think about it in adult relationships. Do you have any close personal relationships with adults, like a partner or a best friend or a sister, a brother, a mom, a dad? Like you have interpersonal relationships as well that are not with your children, that are with other adults. And have you ever had a relationship with somebody and you want to say no? You just don't want to do what they say. You're just like, either you're quietly dismissive or you're outwardly telling them no, but you don't want to do what they say. It's a power struggle. And if you've had that relationship with somebody, why is it that you don't want to say yes? Why is it you don't want to be helpful? Why is it you don't want to do as they ask? Let's take a partner. Have you ever just thought like, I don't want to do what they say. I'm not doing as they ask. Why? Is it because you're feeling really great about this person at the time? That you're feeling really connected and bonded and the relationship's really going well and everything's kind of moving along swimmingly? Is that why you say no? Or could it be that the relationship is strained, that you don't feel good about this person, that you don't even want to be around them, you don't want to say yes to them because maybe they've threatened you, maybe they've bribed you, maybe they've made fun of you, belittled you, lectured you, maybe they're withdrawn. What is it? What is going awry in the relationship that you share with this person, so much so that you don't want to comply with their wishes? What's happened? Where has the separation occurred? Now, think about it with your child. Do you think children just don't want to do as you ask them to do? I mean, sure. Many kids don't want to do their chores. But if you're in a place where they're not doing anything and everything is a fight and a pushback and a no and an ignoring or whatever it is, if everything is like that, there's a bigger issue happening. And there's no tip or trick or word or phrase or anything besides a consequence or a punishment or a bribe that is going to get your child to do those things. And even consequences, bribes, and punishments rarely work and eventually stop working. They might work temporarily, but they also majorly destroy the relationship we have with our kids. There's nothing that's going to make them do the thing. I can't give you that. Sure, I could give you a tip or a trick or whatever, but that tip or trick, and I'll give you a couple here at the end, is not going to work unless you're living in a connected home, unless you're not using punishments and consequences, unless you're doing daily special time, unless you're using the ideas of empathy, unless you're allowing natural consequences to sink in, and unless you're giving lots of autonomy with support and scaffolding, lots of different aspects of connected parenting. If you're doing all these things, then maybe the tip or trick will work a little bit. But what works best is building the darn relationship, making the relationship feel better. And how do we make the relationship feel better? All those ideas I just talked about, connection and getting rid of anything punitive or rewards, which are punitive, and lectures and correction. Sometimes we stay away from punishments and threats and bribes and all that stuff, but we've got micro punishments happening. We're still lecturing every time they do something. We're still sitting down and having a long talk about why did you do this and what happened and et cetera, which causes shame, which doesn't help, which is punishment light. Sometimes we use shame. Oh, you did that? Oh my, look what you did. You did that to your brother? Oh my gosh. Not a punishment? Not really. And it's very innocuous. But if it's happening all the time, it's like a microaggression. It creates shame and the kid feels it and they don't feel good about you. And now the relationship is strained if it's happening all the time. And then they don't want to put their shoes on when you ask them. Another piece of it too is like, how are you asking your kids? Are you asking them in demands? Are you asking them with a strong, loud, aggressive voice? Or are you coming in calmly? Are you asking them to do the hard thing when they're offline? Are you asking them to do the hard thing when they're not doing well or just got out of a bad interaction with a sister or school or whatever? Are you using play to ask? Are you coming with empathy when they don't want to do it? I know, I hate taking the garbage out too. It's so bad. Ugh. Or are you saying, that's just what you have to do? We got to take the garbage out. What are we going to do? Let the garbage pile up for 3 days in the house. It's going to smell. You never take it out. I mean, how are you coming to your kids when you're asking them to do something? And how would you want someone to come to you? We only have 5 minutes. You got to put your shoes on right now. Hurry up. We got to go to school. No, I don't like to be talked to like that. Do you? Makes me nervous. Makes my insides start to bubble and boil and believe me, I was that person though. I was that mom. I was that person. Being late made me insane. Being disorganized made me crazy. Not getting things done made my head explode. But if we're also living in a house of kids, we have to really maintain the expectations of what is achievable here. 100% cleanliness is not. 100% compliance also is not. Living with kids is hard, people. They don't have our standards. They don't care about what we care about. It isn't important to them, and that's okay. But you have to adjust your expectations and you have to adjust your ideas around what they will and won't do. And how many things can you ask a kid to do? How many things can you ask the 6-year-old to do? I don't know, not that many. He's already got to brush his teeth, get ready for school, do homework probably. They already have so much required of them. What else are you going to ask them to do? And what else are you going to expect them to do? When we have the great connection happening, it's easier. But it's not foolproof. Getting 100% cooperation is not guaranteed for anybody in any relationship. That's for sure. And we are not the almighty, all being, I'm going to make you do these things. This is, you have to be respectful and you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to live in this house. And we get very, aggressive in that idea. And maybe that comes from our parents. I don't know, comes from society for sure. The expectations of kids and the expectations of cooperation, that they're just expected to do everything right now for us because we said so. Because we said so is not going to work, not with any kid, not long term, and not for the relationship. So what I suggest with cooperation are a few things, and I've already mentioned them. I'm just going to lay it out very succinctly. One, focus on the relationship. Do all the things inside of connective parenting: special time, empathy, understanding, play, natural consequences, not using consequences and punishments, allowing for lots of autonomy with support and scaffolding, and coming with probing questions, and just everything we teach inside of connective parenting. That will get you the most headway as far as cooperation. Two, really being mindful about how you're asking your kids. Those are my tips and tricks. How are you asking your kids? Are you asking them when they're hungry and tired and melting down? Not a good time to ask. Are you asking from 7 rooms away? Are you asking them right here, right now, playfully? Are you using play when you can't get them to do something? Is it the only time you're using play? Because if it's the only time you're using play, that becomes manipulative. But are you using play all the time? And this is just one of the other times you're using play. Are you offering empathy when they say no and say, I understand, and letting them have the meltdown and then returning to the ask? What are your ideas around cooperation, and how do you get it? And how do we get away from this idea that my kids aren't listening? They don't do what I say. And back to this idea is my kids aren't feeling great about my relationship, and that's why they're pushing back. So I'm going to work on the relationship in order for this to be easier for all of us. And I'm going to do that through the ideas of connection. All right. I hope this is helpful. Thanks for joining me on the Peace and Parenting podcast, and I'll see you next time.